Rudy, the war in Afghanistan isn't working, is it?
It hasn't come to the result that we want yet. I think we've made a lot of progress in the last year or so. I think that we can win the war in Afghanistan if we stick with it. We were at this point with Iraq also, where a lot of people in this country were ready to pull out of Iraq before we had victory.
If I invite you back in 2015, do you honestly think that there will be any kind of tangible victory in Afghanistan?
Yeah, I think there could be, yes. I think that we could have a more stable government in Afghanistan. I think we could have tremendous destruction of the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. That's really our objective in Afghanistan is somewhat different than Iraq. In Iraq, our objective was put a government together that can act as a stabilizing influence in that part of the world. And we're 3/4 of the way there. In Afghanistan, our objective always has been, since President Bush went in and President Obama upped the stakes, let's see if we can destroy the Taliban, or particularly Al-Qaeda.
Can you ever really get victory in these countries?
Sure. Well, what constitutes victory? Look at Iraq. Iraq is now a lot more peaceful. Iraq has a government. Iraq is bringing some of the dissidents in and some of the extremists into the government now. Iraq is trying to
When you say more peaceful, it's not more peaceful than it was before the war.
It's a lot more peaceful than it was before Saddam was when Saddam was there. It was a heck of a lot more violent.
It's a very arguable point. I mean, there's still a lot of bloodshed in the streets
of
Baghdad.
But there aren't people.
There's not what you would call a stable, free democracy there, is there?
Well, it's going to take a while to have a stable, free democracy. There is a democracy there. In various parts of the country, it is much, much better. You don't have the political prisoners that you had under Saddam Hussein. You don't have the threat of nuclear power being established there. If Saddam was still there, with Iran becoming a nuclear power, Saddam would be matching that, just like Pakistan and India played off each other in becoming nuclear powers. So we eliminate that problem immediately by him not being there.
Let's rewind to September the 10th, 2001. If you were honest, who would you have identified then as the major threat in terms of weapons of mass destruction? North Korea, Iran, or Iraq?
Probably all three.
Yeah, but who would you, in order? I mean, from all I've been told, it was bleedingly obvious to people that Iran and North Korea clearly had better capabilities.
No, that's in retrospect. Every single intelligence report, including the ones that went to the UK, United States, Germany, said that Saddam had weapons of mass destruction.
But it was wrong, that intelligence.
It was all wrong, but every bit of it said it.
Do you think the politicians...
If you had asked me on September 10th, does Saddam Hussein have nuclear weapons? And I called up President Clinton, who was then out of office, and asked him, he would have told me yes. If I called up President Bush, he would have told me yes. If I called up Tony Blair, he would have told me yes. If I talked to the FBI or the CIA, they would have told me yes. So I would have believed he had weapons of mass destruction, just like everyone else.
But it would be a mistake, wouldn't it, to invade Iran now?
Would be a mistake to invade Iran right now?
Well, using the same yardstick of argument that you used with Saddam Hussein.
I think it would be a mistake right now to invade Iran, but I don't think it would be a mistake.
And the same with North Korea, presumably.
North Korea is a different situation, which we can talk about, different things involving North Korea. Iran should, however, feel that if they do become a nuclear power, we might very well take military action if they become a nuclear power, because it's the only way in which we're going to gain leverage over them in order to get them to be more reasonable about inspections. I think the fact that they think that we will not take military action makes them a lot bolder.
You recently went to Paris with several other Republicans.
Right.
And you talked with an Iranian opposition group called the Mujahideen-e-Haq. And you got some flack for that. I don't think I would give you flack for that, because I saw the benefit of the Blair government talking directly to the IRA.
Right.
And it led to peace and prosperity. I saw it happen.
Right.
Not perfect, but certainly better than what was going on before. Right. Do you believe fundamentally that America should be doing more of these trips rather than castigating them?
Absolutely. And the group that sent us there is a group that supports lifting the sanction against them that was placed on by the Clinton administration, describing them as a terrorist group. That sanction has been lifted by the UK. That sanction has been listed by the European Union. Basically, they're considered a terrorist group because they oppose Ahmadinejad and they oppose the mullahs. And the only two countries that now list them that way are Iran and the United States.
Would you meet with Hezbollah, with Al-Qaeda?
It would depend on what could be accomplished. What I believe in is the old-fashioned diplomacy that used to exist, which is when a president or a mayor or a governor goes into a negotiating session, you've got to have a group of objectives that you think you can obtain from it, and you have to have leverage.
But as a principle...
I wouldn't just meet for the purpose of meeting.
But as a principle, you believe it is probably time that America talked more to its enemies?
If America has the objective of obtaining advantages from it, like to talk to Iran is useless unless you have leverage. That leverage could be created by Iran truly believing that we would take military action if we had to do that. I grew up in the Reagan administration. Reagan spoke to the Soviet Union. He spoke to our enemies, but he also pointed missiles at their major cities when he did it. And he insisted on nuclear defense, and he raised the leverage against them. If you know how to do it, then it is appropriate to talk to our enemies. But if you're begging them to talk to you, as happened in some cases in the early part of this administration, you're never going to get anywhere.
Would you meet this group again?
Oh, absolutely. This group is a hope for Iran. This is a group that 100 members of Congress have petitioned the State Department to have it delisted so that it can raise money in the United States. The only two countries in the world that refuse to deal with this group are Iran and the United States. What are we doing on the same side of Iran? We should be on the side of the UK and the European Union. Right?
It's a good time for America and Russia to be doing deals to reduce their nuclear capability, given that both countries are relatively stable compared to a lot of other countries, given that Pakistan and countries like that are clearly unstable and in possession of a number of weapons. Is this really the right time for America to be downgrading?
I didn't think so. I mean, I didn't think that the START treaty made sense right now. Particularly, I didn't see it as a good time to do it as a reward for Putin's actions, in which Putin has gone way, way back and retrogressed in Russia. I mean, it almost feels somewhat like the Soviet Union now. So I didn't think this was the right time to do that. I don't think the treaty means all that much in terms of our ability to defend ourselves or their ability to harm us. But I thought symbolically this wasn't the right time. I thought it wasn't also a good idea to give up the nuclear defense of Poland and the Czech Republic as part of it. I don't think we got enough back in return.
We're going to come back in a moment and talk about the events of 9/11. We're approaching the 10th anniversary. You were a key figurehead on that terrible day, and I want to talk to you about your recollection.